You're listening to The Extraction, conversations on the systems and strategies behind dental practice growth with Colin Ambler and Kyle Bergman. Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Extraction podcast. I'm Kyle from TeamCare, and I am joined by my colleague, co-founder and CEO, Colin Ambler. And today we have Dr. Peter Boulden on, who is a co-owner of multiple practices in the Atlanta area, as well as co-founder of the Bulletproof Dental Practice, which is a consulting advisory firm that is helping hundreds of practice owners such as yourself drive real growth. Peter, great to have you on the pod. How are you?
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, so quick roadmap for our listeners. We're going to start hearing a little bit about Dr. Peter's background, but then we want to get right into uncovering some of the success that he's had, specifically on unlocking staff engagement. You don't get to multiple practices and also starting an advisory firm on luck. And yeah, we could talk about patient experience until the cows come home, but that's not what we really care about. We care about how you got badass teams set up in every location, because presumably that is necessary. But before we get there, let's take a step back. Dr. Peter, who are you? Where are you from? What have you done?
It's always such a daunting question. Who are you? Because you want to stay super pithy with your answer. But you're like, who am I? So I am a dentist, graduated 2002, entrepreneurial by nature. So I've grown into 8 locations, many partners, many real estate. And now, like you said, I run with my partner, Craig Spodak in Delray Beach, Florida, run the Bulletproof Dental Practice podcast to kind of help dentists. And so I've been at it obviously about 23 years. I'm no longer clinical. I stopped doing clinical in 2019, but I'm from Atlanta, born and raised, with the exception of going to Virginia, like we talked about before we hit record.
Awesome. So one of the things I want to ask you right off the bat is, let's pretend that you're moving to a major new city and you have to start a new dental practice. What are the first 3 things that you're doing to find the success that you found in Atlanta in a new?
All right. So obviously the first thing, if I'm doing a startup in a new city, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to identify the type of dentistry that I want to deliver to that city. Meaning, am I an all-in-X guy? Am I a cosmetic guy? Am I a drill, fill, bill? What am I trying to do? Because that will dictate demographically where I want to set up. So demographics is only one part of it. We immediately go to dentist to population, right? Dentist to active population. So the second thing I'm going to is that number, but that can be a misleading number. So let's say I identified a space I wanted to go, and it said, hey, in this area, in this 3-mile radius, there's 20,000 people and there's 5 dentists. 3 of which, though, as you do your diligence in it, 3 of which might be extremely hard to find. They're not advertising. They haven't even claimed their Google My Business page. So like all competition is not created equally is where I'm going with that. So I would look at an underserved, under competitive area in a demographic that supports my mission. And then I would open up, I would beg, borrow, and steal enough money to acquire something on or build a building on something that has a traffic count of about 10,000 vehicles per day or more. Whatever it took, right? And most dentists, and I'm guilty of this too, in our beginning phases, we find something that is, that's a good deal. That's cheap. It's cheap for a reason, right? The lease is cheap for a reason. The building's cheap for a reason, because what you're going to have to spend to subsidize your poor location is a billboard and excessive marketing, versus what I've learned now is just get eyeballs on your practice, however that can be. That's kind of the preliminary phases of what I would do. I think it's step 1 is identifying your concentric circle of where you want to practice.
Sounds like if you were one of those billionaires that got dropped in a random city with no money, you'd probably make it out alive. And those are some pretty good directions. I know from my experience running a business, I think what you said is really interesting about which model do you want to play in? Do you want to be the all-in-X guy? Do you want to be the drill and fill guy? Do you want to do cosmetic? And you've successfully gotten out of the chair. And so I'm curious what your take would be about if any of those models lend themselves to dentists trying to get out of the chair.
Yeah.
It's like, is it harder to have, I mean, to me, getting out of the chair puts you in a place where you're dependent on your associates. And maybe obviously the all on X is a certain skill set. The cosmetic might be you have to be a better communicator, salesperson. Riff to me about that on for the dentist, the
Yeah,
listeners out there
yeah.
that are interested in getting out of the chair.
So right now with Craig, I coach 47 dentists in a year-long curriculum in a mastermind. And we see this problem, this paradox of we have these unicorns who want to get out of the chair. When I say unicorn, I mean they're $2.5 million producers. They're highly specialized. They're highly sought after. And they essentially are the business. And they're like, I want to step down from my business. And we're like, you don't have a business, you have a job. And that's great because LeBron James has a job. Like my partner says, he just gets paid a lot. You get compensated well for your job, but you have a high specificity and you are hard to replicate. So back to your question, if someone wants to extricate themselves from the chair, the easier method is like I have a buddy in Texas. His name's Trey Tippett, right? And his model is he doesn't want to even do quadrant dentistry. He wants to do simple dentistry at scale, right? So that he can hire new grads to come in and take over and do quality single tooth and multi-tooth dentistry, but not this vertical dimension change and full mouth restoration and all on X. That's harder to replace at scale. So my advice would be if that's what you're looking to do is focus on your hygiene program, make it as robust as possible, and then focus on quadrant dentistry. And then all the other things that come from that if you want to specialize, the cosmetics and all on X or implants or Invisaligns, that should be the cherry on top and not the core.
Very cool. So if someone was starting over, this is actually a great little thought study that we're doing, because if you're starting over in a competitive city and you have a 90-day roadmap to set you up for life. And for some dentists, they're happy being in the chair. But if you're happy being in the chair, what you're going to focus on in those first 90 days is going to be different fundamentally as far as creating the foundations for your business as it would be for a dentist that is like, look, I want to put in 10, 15 years of hard work and then I want to get out, but I want to still reap the fruits of my labor. And that's going to be a different type of dentistry business model, if I'm hearing it correctly.
What does that mean? Like, I want to get out. Does that mean you're selling your business? Does that mean you're gonna create or you're selling your practice, right? Or does that mean you're creating a business that creates income that you don't do with your own hands? Like, what does that mean to you?
I think to me, within the context of this conversation, it is getting out of the chair, but still having equity in the business that you created.
Okay. Yeah. So look, if your goal is to exit dentistry, and I love that you said sometimes people don't want to do that because unfortunately the narrative is now get out of the chair. You hear this a lot, and dentistry is a fantastic profession. You can do good by doing good, right? You're helping people. We are in the most blessed profession in the world, I say. And you can do whatever you want, meaning you can optimize your practice from the freedom of time if that's what you want. You can optimize for scale or real estate or built to sell for to a DSO. You can do whatever you want. There's no rules. But to your question, what would I do? I would focus on building a business. And so I talk about this a lot with Craig, and that we find that dentists have this lost decade, meaning we get out of school, we know we have a lot of debt, we've made no money, and we just start sprinting. We just start sprinting, right? Towards put our head down and start seeing a bunch of patients and we start sprinting. And that sprint usually takes 10 to 15 years. And then we pick our head up and we're like, oh shit, I'm not really fulfilled in what I'm doing. I don't really love dentistry. But we never took time to evaluate the mission of what you wanted to create in your life. A lot of times people will spend more time planning their vacation than they will their career. So I would just say like what, and it matters. Sorry, Colin, it matters. Getting clarity early on is probably the biggest superpower you can have. What do you want your life to look like? Because at 50 years old, it's very, very, I'm 50 years old and it's very up front and center that I do not get any redos anymore. I do not get another trip on this ride. This is a wrap. And so you gotta live it with the best advantage. And I was that person who put my head down for 15 years and was like, oh, I guess I just do this, right? And then I finally picked it up. I was like, uh-oh, this isn't exactly what I wanted. And then I had to go to work to remedy that.
Yeah, I love that. I can see that in so many of our associates that work at me and my wife's practice, and they come out of school and they're filled up with debt and they just start working and they don't get clarity of it. One of the themes that we've seen on this pod for the past couple episodes has been this conversation about mentoring and coaching. And when my wife and I were early starting out in our practice, we had that too. You know, we didn't know where we wanted to go and we were trying to feel it through the dark. And when someone showed us and like, you know, it was like a dark path and literally feeling through the dark and someone shines a light on it and they're like, go here, it makes all the difference in the world. So I can totally relate to that. I can totally see where people just kind of put their head down and grind. I love that phrase of like the lost decade. But let's like maybe fast forward since we got like a limited time here and let's keep playing the story. You're lost. You got dropped in this city and you have 90 days to figure it out. And let's just play it out. Let's say you want to be a doctor that has multiple associates and wants to be a business owner, but not a practitioner. And let's say we talk about systems and you want to make sure that things are happening on a daily basis the right way, that you have good people that are kind of like held to some level of accountability. What are some of your top core systems that you would advise for dentists out there to implement as a starting point?
Yeah, I think I'm struggling with the 90-day thing because that
Take
doesn't
that out. You
really.
can take that. You can remove that parameter.
So look,
1 year,
systems
5 year,
again.
whatever.
Uh, okay. So systems, we throw around these words a lot, like systems and SOPs and KPIs and P&Ls and all this stuff in dentistry. And I'm going to work on my business. I want to get out of the chair so I can work on my business. And a lot of people don't even know what the heck this means. They don't really know what it means. So like you're asking from an SOP, and you're asking from a system standpoint, what would I create? All of them, right? I would build a flagship model so that there were no questions unanswered in my practice in the operations. There would be a system for everything as there is today. Because in the absence of a system, what happens is entropy. There's chaos that pursues. People will create their own systems in the absence of your systems, and you won't like it.
I couldn't agree more. But to counter, Rome wasn't built in a day. You got to start somewhere. You got to prioritize. For listeners out there, what are some of the most high leverage
All right.
things
So I would put it into
from a matter of
buckets.
focus?
I would put it
Yeah.
into buckets, right? I would create systems for hygiene. I would create systems for operative dentistry. I would create systems for my front business team. And I would start with buckets of systems so that it wasn't thousands of systems I needed to create. And so what it means by systems is like standard operating procedure. If this, then that. If this happens, what do I do? Right. And if you start with that thesis of, hey, this person calls with a temporary off, what do I do? If this, then we say this, then we do this, and it's a flow chart of things. So I would start with the things that are the biggest bottleneck to your practice. The question that you get 100 times a day on the phone, the question that patients ask you all the time. I would start with that, right? Back to your Rome
Yes.
wasn't built in a
Start
day,
with the
right?
bottleneck.
Right,
Yes.
right. And
Yeah,
then
we
go
talked
from
about
there.
the
But I would
bottleneck.
be committed to the fact that, look, Colin, let me tell you, and Kyle, let me tell you, people, dentists have, we have this, and you probably see this, or maybe your exposure. We put create office manual on our to-do list, and then we spend weeks and weeks in a dark hole creating an office manual with all these procedures, and then we put it in a binder, and guess where it goes? On the shelf. And guess who looks at it? Nobody ever again. And then we do that every 5 years because it makes us feel good that we have a system. Systems are a dynamic, living, breathing organism that should be modified all the time. Okay. So whatever works for you to create a system like that, and you should gamify it as opposed to it being a to-do list. You should gamify it because it's the only thing that will buy you freedom.
One of our favorite words, gamification. So, jumping out of this hypothetical for a second and into the real life experience that you've had, Dr. Peter, how would you able to gamify some of the systems that you use to this day in your practices? And I'm assuming, but you correct me if I'm wrong, when I hear gamify, I also think of incentives. Are you incentivizing your staff? And if so, how?
So my staff is incented by the business. I don't gamify. Did you do this task? Good dog. Did you not do this task? Bad dog. I don't do it like that. I do it from an overarching, did the business do well or better because of the actions you took as a team? Yes or no. It's super binary for me, right? Now there are some minutia metrics that are like a phone team and the assistant team and the doctor team and the hygiene team. Yes. But as a general rule, I'm very transparent with sharing the numbers of all practices with all employees,
Love
right?
it.
Because if you don't know what a touchdown looked like or where the touchdown is, you have a team that's driving different directions.
Uh,
Right. So how do you
Amen.
expect someone to excel when they don't really know, they don't have clarity on what the doctor wants, what the mission is? Like, I'm running, doc, aren't I doing good? And then and unfortunately we yell at them, no, dummy, you're running the wrong way. The wrong way. We don't say dummy, but you get it. Right. But they're like, damn it, I'm trying to work my ass off. And then we have a problem with retention of people, because a lot of times people are just looking for purpose in their job. And I know your thing is all about team care, and that is a great thing. But giving your team members a purpose and alignment and a great culture that's supported by this mission that you're on, that's what human beings crave.
Yeah,
I didn't
amen. I
answer
think
your
culture.
question. I just went
Okay,
on
that's
on
all
my
right.
own tangent.
Culture's everything. I think that we've my wife and I, we've been doing this for a while, and we've been on the roller coaster at times. We've been having great teams where you walk in and just the energy is, you can feel it. We've had people where it's like, hey, it's not so great. And I think the purpose of team care, we're kind of in the middle. It's like, my wife doesn't practice much anymore, but still has a very active role in the practice as a mentor to all of our 7 doctors who are typically young associates. And we kind of live in that world of the quadrant dentistry. It's a bigger practice. But we love to travel, and we're all over the country, all over the time. And so the team care came into play when we wanted this central nervous system that was always available, that was always distributed, that was transparent. One of the things that we have that a lot of people have come to realize is a management system in itself is this leaderboard. And so we have a doctor leaderboard, we have a hygienist leaderboard, we have a front desk leaderboard, and it itemizes each individual staff member and what their numbers are. And we don't really ram it down people's throats or anything, but when it comes to running a team meeting, this is one of the first things that goes up. And it's like, well, who's doing really well, who's doing really poor? I think it came from a place where, even from a small level with doctors in a multi-associate practice can get a little grabby with patients, and they can say, oh, well, I'm not doing well because I don't get enough patients, and this guy's getting all the new patients and I get none. And making that very open and transparent to people has and like very visible has been in itself a management system that kind of like forces people to just live by the numbers instead of by gut feelings and stuff like that. And so that's kind of been our approach to it. I'm wondering if you, as someone that's gotten, I hate to use the continued buzzwords, gotten out of the chair, what kind of stuff maybe similar to this have you found successful in your go at it as being an operator?
I mean, one of the things that helped me was the fact that I was able to expand to multiple locations, because I have onboarded or sold partners. I have 7 partners, right? So I've had dilution events all the way down, which has helped give ownership mentality across the board. And that might not be for everyone, but it was good for me. It wasn't this diminishing pie theory, because honestly, without partners, I'd probably be stuck at location 2 still. Me personally, my idea was I didn't want to own 100% of $1 million practice. I wanted to own a smaller portion of a $20 million practice, kind of thing. And it's a lot more fun and engaging. So that was a way that I extricated myself, because it's a lot. Look, revenues cure all symptoms, kind of things. And so it's a lot easier to back away from the chair. And that wasn't really I love dentistry, honestly. It wasn't my primary mission. It was like, I hate dentistry, I don't want to do this. I actually really liked it. It's just I didn't have the bandwidth to do it anymore. And honestly, my highest and best use for the ecosystem was not served by me turning the drill, right? I had lots of people who could do that. My highest and best use was my superpower of like expanding, growing, optimizing, kind of thing. Again, I don't really know if I answered your question, but you were saying your advice to people would be, how do they get out? What did I do to kind of architect my way to what you just showed? Is that what you're
Yeah, in
saying?
some way. Yeah, definitely. And maybe just give people some guidance. I mean, I think people are always looking for a good 1 or 2 things to walk away with. We listen to this thing, we talk to these people that have made it to the other side. Like you said, everyone talks about systems, and I think some people may be able to isolate their bottleneck, maybe not. But like distilling this down and kind of like starting to systematize stuff, I think we find that owners like, maybe they using spreadsheets? Is spreadsheets like the answer? Is there accountability? Accountability sometimes seems elusive in offices. And so I guess I was trying to maybe look at some of the things that
Well, okay.
tactically, things
Okay.
that you've done.
Yeah. So look, it's a little too short of a pod for me to get tactical, just to be honest. I will tell you though that many people feel they are good at delegation and they are not. Or contrary to that, many people are stuck in the nucleus of everything. They are involved in every decision and they feel overwhelmed and too busy. And they've architected their way into that position because they're the doctor, they're the smartest person in the room, quote unquote, right? All things go through me. And then they feel trapped, right? So what you need to identify, and there's a myth going around, or, oh, I need to be well-rounded. I'm the CEO. I need to be well-balanced. It's a complete crock of BS. Identify what your zone of genius is, and then get the hell out of the way for everything else,
I love
right?
that.
And don't abdicate what you have on your, don't abdicate things, delegate, learn how to create systems around, hey, this is now your process that you're going to run in perpetuity. I hate doing payroll. I hate doing spreadsheets. Audit your day, write down all the things you do every 5 minutes. I did this and I called this person. I did this, right? What are the activities that give you energy? What are the activities that drain your energy? And then your next step is, how do I get these off of my plate? The drainers I need to get off of my plate, right? Because what happens? Eventually, these people who want to quote unquote get to the other side, they have no energy because they're worn out from the operations of their business. And then when it comes time to work on their business, A, they have no idea what the heck that means. And B, they're just exhausted by the end of the week that it's like, I'll do it next week. I'll do it next week. And before you know it, it's 15 years later.
Dr. Peter, that was, and
The soundbite.
that was definitely a soundbite. Can't wait to throw that up on social media. And to kind of tie a bow on this specific convo before we jump over to something exciting and the last thing that we'll do together, because I know you kind of being put in the hot seat, and so I have something for you. But first, one thing that jumped out to me, and I think one of your superpowers, also similar to Colin and Sharon, you have the ability to let go because you see a bigger picture. A smaller percentage of a bigger pie is where everyone wins. Colin and Sharon are the owner of a 14 operatory, 7 associate practice because years ago, thanks to a marketing agency called ChrisAd, they were able to see that if we hire people and go a little bit in the red, that's actually going to allow us to get farther into the black than we ever could have done otherwise. And you basically just said that in different words. So if you're listening to this and you're scared to, yeah, how am I ever going to get out of this practice? How am I ever going to get out of this 2 practice thing? Well, bring on partners. Much, much easier said than done, but you have to let go a little bit in order to take 3 or 4 steps ahead. Okay, here's what we're going to do, Dr. Peter. So recently at the Dykema Summit, we heard from 5 different CEOs from 5 separate DSOs that lack of hygiene recall is the biggest gap in the dental space right now. And that's kind of just a universal truth. And I want to do a screen share right now. And I'm going to show you a feature of TeamCare, our hygiene reactivation flow. I'm going to show you how it works. And then I'm going to show you how we incentivize staff members to do hygiene recall in an 11 out of 10 fashion. I would love your raw, honest feedback. Listeners right now, Dr. Peter doesn't really know a lot about TeamCare. And so he's going to be seeing this for the first time. And Dr. Peter, as you've listened so far, is not a guy that sugarcoats anything. So I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on this. Okay, so what we're looking at here is a hygiene reactivation or recare or recall living list. And a patient gets on this when they meet 2 specific criteria. 1, you are overdue for hygiene. You have not had a hygiene cleaning in the last 6 months. And 2, you do not have any future appointment scheduled. And so every day we sync to every PMS in the system. Front desk or hygiene members can come in and select someone and make an attempt. We have a call script. You can either schedule them, you can leave a voicemail, you can also send a text. Once you submit the attempt, we're recording that in a leaderboard that everyone in the practice can see how many attempts people have made, the voicemails, the scheduled, and how many people have actually attended. Here's where it gets exciting for us. You can create incentives off of this. So this practice, and this is a real practice we're looking at, gives each of their team members $15 for every person who actually attends an appointment off of the reactivation list. The last thing I want to show you is the impact that practices are seeing. In the month of August, 23 patients were reactivated, resulting in $1,000 in incremental production. Now, we know that hygiene recare is valuable because people come back in and that's additional production. And then you or the doctor provides an exam and there's additional treatment. We've made all of this, we like to think, very easy. But based off of the super lightning quick demo that I just showed you, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I think those CEOs, and I think what your software is doing is tracking the biggest prognosticator of future practice success. And so what we know from that is when you have a reappointment on the books, that will tell you how the practice is going to perform. And that ratio, what do you guys think should be the percentage of next visits on as a function of your total patient base? What percentage of those people have a next visit? What do you think should be a healthy range?
Man, hygiene to hygiene, we'd love to see 95
No,
plus,
total.
97%.
Well, that's recare. That's recare. I'm talking about reappoint with just a next visit of some sort. It could be restorative, otherwise.
Yeah, I'm still there. I'm still up.
Okay. How much? What is the number?
Ideal case, 97%.
Well, ideal, sure. Most are in probably the 50% range. Most practices are in the 50% range. So like what you gave, Colin, is world class. That's a world class percentage. But I love any kind of metric that doubles down on stuff like this, right? I think there's about 5 KPIs that really matter in dentistry. Yes, there's hundreds that can be tracked through Dental Intel or all the practice by numbers or maybe even your software. But at the end of the day, most dentists drown in the analysis of numbers and they don't know really what levers to turn in order to fix it. That's the problem. It's not the access to information. It's actually taking the action to remedy it is the problem that I see. Okay. So that's why I really don't love some analytics softwares out there because they just drown you in data. And then you're like, okay, great. I see it. And then the next question is, shit, I can't ask now what, because I'm supposed to know the answer to this. And we don't know. We don't know. So I love it when you look, it's Pearson's law. What you track increases, right? It's just by virtue of it. What you give attention to in your practice usually gets better over time. And so I believe you and your software are focusing on a very, very important metric per the CEOs from Dykema. I think we all agree in dentistry, that's a huge one. But it's not the one, it's one of 5, but it's probably the biggest one.
Yeah, I think that we could probably talk to you for a long time. I think you didn't really see a lot of TeamCare, but I think we're all talking the same language. We're all talking about analytics is one piece, but it is paralysis by, it's like, what do I do with this stuff? And with TeamCare, the name of TeamCare has gone that way because this is a distributed team. Our goal is so that if we plug in with a practice, the doctor doesn't have to worry about it. This is something that the team embraces, team engages, team has opportunities to make more money, to have recognition through their performance. And so we've systematized reactivation in one way. We've done it with treatment plans and certain other activities, and that's worked really well. We got about 1,000 practices to date that are using this with their teams and getting excited. So I think we won't go too far down the rabbit hole, but I think just hearing your honest feedback and echoing some of the parts of the mission statement that we have with the way it's been great just to hear these terms again, talking about bottlenecks, talking about getting engagement and going beyond the analytics and making it actionable. So I think it's been a great little talk.
Yeah, Dr. Peter, thank you so much for the wisdom and pulling back the curtain a little bit on what you've done to build such successful businesses. For everyone listening, if you're picking up what Dr. Peter is putting down, check out bulletproofdentalpractice.com. Subscribe to their podcast, explore their community, and Dr. Peter, I'm sure, would love to chat with you. Thank you, everyone, for spending time with us on this episode of The Extraction, and we'll see y'all next time. Thanks, Dr. Peter.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to The Extraction with Colin Ambler and Kyle Bergman. Read episode notes and transcripts at teamcaredental.com.